Welcome back to the strategy table. I'm your host, Artrice V.Scott, and today we're going to be talking about something that is very, very controversial, like rebellion, a holy rebellion. Now, how do I make those two words go together? But it works, right? Because rebellion is legit something that get a bad rap. That word alone has ruined a lot of people's relationship with themselves, with others, how people see them, how people perceive them, how they get to show up in spaces because the moment rebellion shows up, people are legit ready to throw you to the wolves. And you have to be ready to show up for yourself when that word hits you, when that word comes across as something that's trying to define you. Because the moment it shows up is literally trying to train you to question yourself, to question your motives, to trusting your actions. It's basically telling you to shrink, to second guess, to correct something in you before you even understand exactly what it is that you're trying to do. And I say understand because some of us don't understand that we're legit called to disrupt systems, right? We see the chaos, right? And we're there to make sure that it doesn't continue. And so, again, we get labeled as rebellious when we don't conform to societal norms, right? Disrespectful, they can call us prideful, we're labeled as difficult, unteachable, out of order, right? I mean, you think about how you when somebody say that word to you about someone else, how does it shape your perception of them? And you gotta ask yourself, is it fair? Because is it even fair to you, right? Because if you don't know that person, the depths and the motives of that person, how dare we say it's rebellious? So let this sit in for a second, right? Listen to this. What if rebellion is not always the problem? What if it's sometimes that rebellion is the signal? It is legit the tension you feel, right? When somebody's calling out a problem that else is ignoring. It's not immaturity, it's awareness, right? And if that awareness keeps rising up in you, creating a tension with your soul, your spirit, your mind, your body, those around you, then is it really rebellion? Or is it something that you just can't ignore, right? What if that resistance keep rising up in you as the thing you've been trying to suppress, explain away, or fix? What if it's actually discernment doing its job? Huh? What if that discernment that you have, that gift that you have, is actually doing its job? But you don't know what it is. Other people don't know what is. So we tend to quieten it down, right? We tend to try to suppress it and make it small because everything that it brings up can be uncomfortable, but it's not wrong. And everything that is normalized isn't really healthy, right? Right? We see it in cultures in workplace and toxic. Just because everybody like it and everybody's laughing, everybody has a good time with it, doesn't mean that it's right. So why is it that when somebody decides to speak on it, they have to be the rebellious person? Now they're putting that toxicity on that person because that person is calling out something that really should be called about everybody. And it's acceptable. It's, it should not be. It really shouldn't. Right? So somewhere along the way, you begin to distrust your internal signals when you suppress those things or you shrink according to someone else's standard or what other people want you to believe or think about yourself or think about the environment that you're in. right? So now when you feel something is off, instead of investigating it or correcting it, you begin to question yourself. Instead of exploring that thing, instead of pushing back, you stop asking the questions, right? But we're not here to apologize for that. We're no longer going to be apologizing, right? We're no longer going to shrink, right? We're going to own our disruptive discernment because that's legit why we have a spirit of discernment so that we can disrupt and call out and rebel against what other people have normalized in society, in culture, in workplaces, and i.e. even churches, right? Everything is it instead of accepting it, it is now your job to stand up for it because the more you accept it, the more your discernment starts to quieten. Why are we gonna even tell her? Why are we gonna tell him? And he's not gonna do anything about it. And then so when it's time for you to start seeking clarity within yourself about your next move, you can't even hear your discernment because discernment is like, they don't listen to me. It's not listening. He, him, them, they not listening to me. So now it's a small whisper, and you're wondering why in these times that you cannot li- like pull out. I can't hear. I can't think. I can't see. I don't know what to do. It's because for the first 30 years of your life, you've ignored your discernment. And now that you need it to operate to make your next move, it's not there. You can't hear it. I mean, it's there, but you can't hear it. You can't see it. It's not working for you in the way that it did before, right? And so we need to learn how to push back and accept what our spirit is trying to teach us, what it's trying to show us, what discernment is showing us, and embrace it as a holy rebellion, right? And that holy rebellion is going to take place within you, right? Other people are going to see it. And when I say that, you have to do it for you. You have to do it for you. You have to create that tension and you have to and take away everything that you learn about suppressing it and adjust so that you can begin to line up. So you could become the better version of yourself, right? Because you got to think all of this is an internal war. It's an internal fight. And you have to learn how to fight to get that discernment back into its place. It's not like, oh, well, it ain't got nothing to do with me. No, it has something to do with you. Because if you're willing to stay in environments and accept things as they are, when it's your turn, ain't nobody gonna be there to say, to stand up on your behalf. And so that holy rebellion is legit a reason to excavate and get to the root of who you are. And you have to stop ignoring that. You can't sit there and sit into that label and say, well, every time I say something, everybody get an attitude and I end up being a bad person. You still got to say it. You're legit called to say it. You have to open up your mouth. Oh, you got to have tact. Yes, you do got to have tact, but you still got to say something. Because when we talk about spiritual things and how you move, and we talking about recreating and reinventing our lives, right? And taking the next step and we're creating a strategy to win, there's things about you that you're going to need to pull on and recognize. And you can't be afraid to say the hard things. And you're going to need that to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your children, to stand up for your community. But if you continue to suppress it, then where is the power going to come from? You don't know that version of yourself. You don't know that version of your power. All rebellion is not the same. Let me say that. The holy rebellion I'm talking about is an excavation of you, but all rebellion is not the same. There's rebellion that's rooted in ego. Yes, it is. But again, this is the holy rebellion. We're talking about we're not acting out for attention. We're not reactive just to react. We're not coming from an insecure place. It's coming from alignment within you, within what you're called to do, what your soul recognizes, what makes you uncomfortable, what make other people uncomfortable. It is what happens when something in you refuses to agree, and it's what your spirit already knows that is out of order. It's just bringing it to your attention. So many times we enter into relationships and our spirit is screaming, "No!" But we keep going because we've learned to disregard that discernment. Holy Spirit telling you, "No, he not the one. She ain't the one. She gonna break your heart. He gonna leave you on the floor crying all alone on the bedroom floor because you all." Uh, but you keep going. Why? Because you have not tapped into that power. So if you don't learn to disrupt systems with your words, with your power, you're going to continue to accept things and not know how to use your power. A holy rebellion is legit tapping into your power to disrupt, change, excavate. Holy rebellion is there to create change in your life, the lives of others that you come in contact with, to disrupt the system that it can get in line. It is when things look good on the outside, but something in you will not settle, you have to answer that call.
Did my homework.
Good job, bud.
Yeah, mine's.
Hey, say this again, right? Holy rebellion is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It is strategic, it is rooted, it has a purpose, right? And it's discerning. It's a truth, right? That cannot be ignored. It is all about alignment. It's about refusing to cooperate with the dysfunction around you, right? It is the peace, right? Is peace that is a peace that comes from knowing that you spoke up, that you said something. That is able to elevate your power. You know how to get in contact with your power when things aren't working the way that you think it should, right? You know how to get in contact with that. So when people talk about somebody that's disrupted and they call them disrespectful and we call them prideful, what that person really knows, they know where their power lies, right? And I'll tell this story because I used to think that my voice was so rebellious, right? The way I spoke, the passion, the aggression that was in my tone. People didn't like to out for all my life. Even now still, people tell me, "Oh, you don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to talk to people either." Right? Or you don't understand people. And that used to crush me. I used to cry and ask God, change my voice, change my tone. I mean it from my heart when I'm saying things, when I'm giving advice, when I'm speaking up. I used to literally cry, ask God to like give me a new way to talk. But then one day God said, I'm never going to remove that passion in your voice. He said, I'm going to teach you how to use that passion in your voice. He said, bold as a lion, wise as a serpent. And that's even why I call this the strategy table, because you have to be bold enough to roar at something or someone, but you also have to do it in a wise, strategic manner. We call it tact. I call it wise as a serpent. Being wise as a serpent means to be strategic. It means to have a purpose in why you're doing it, right? So God taught me how to tame the fire in my voice so that when I rebelled, it was holy. It had a purpose. It was rooted in alignment. It was rooted in getting something over to someone who needed it at that moment. It was used to correct systems. It's going to be used to give people power. It's going to be used for something else. And so around about 32 years old, I stopped apologizing for how I spoke. If you didn't like it, pop smoke. You didn't like my approach, pop smoke. but not in a negative way, in a way to say, what I'm saying is true. What I'm saying has purpose. And if you can't handle that the way I gave it to you, that means I'm not your person, and that's okay too. That's okay too. So we have to know when it's okay to walk away from somebody who can't receive your ability to get into alignment with your soul, with your spirit, with your discernment. Because again, this is not my space, you're not my people, right? So we don't I guess what I want to say. I started making a confession. I will not turn my roar into a plea. This is not a plea deal. I'm not turning my truth into a plea. I'm not begging. I'm not asking. I am telling you, this is what it is. This is what I see. This is wrong in whatever situation it is. And you have to have that same tenacity if you want to be able to find your power in your ability to discern and operate willingly, knowingly in that discernment. Do not turn your roar into a plea. Just don't do it, right? Don't betray what you know. Don't shrink because you see something that is wrong. Just because the authority is there, it's not. I've been in authoritative jobs most of my life, right? I was a police officer, military, right? Someone's like, "Oh, you can't handle authority. You have a problem with authority." No, I have a problem with wrong authority. When the authority is not doing what they're supposed to do. Because what I realize is that my power is in acknowledging that discernment. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. Holy rebellion is something that the universe, the heavens, is trying to use to bring a system into order, right? And that includes your own internalized system. So if you're listening to this and you realize that may be calling rebellion, disrespect, unruly, unable to listen to authority is actually holy discernment. It is discernment. It is how you can move forward. It's the thing that helps excavate a new narrative in your life. So we don't just sit in awareness over here at the strategy table, right? I want to give you a reset. It's what I like to call the holy rebellion reset. I know. So if you've been mislabeling your own resistance, here's the reset. First thing we're going to do is we're going to expose. And the way we're going to expose that is we're going to expose it with questions. So I want you to ask yourself, what have I normalized that is actually out of order? What have you accepted? What are you going into the flow with just letting it ride? This is the step where you stop assuming that you're just difficult. We're not disrespectful. We're not rebellious, right? We're not prideful. We're not ego driven, right? Again, maybe you're just discerning. And that resistance is your data, okay? It is maybe the system around you isn't healthy and it doesn't sit with you. So, again, that's how you tune into your discernment. So, the question is, where in my life have I been calling suppression wisdom or trying to be tactful or you've been trying to fit in? So that's how we get to the bottom of exposing something. We're going to ask ourselves questions. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to disrupt the pattern, right? So ask yourself this: what pattern, agreement, or silence do I need to break? What is holding me back? What is holding me down? Where is it that I'm trying to go that I can't get to, right? Because of what somebody else labeled that somebody else put on me, right? Because awareness by itself is not enough, right? We have to use this strategy. We're not going to apologize for what it is that how you're created. We're going to embrace it, right? So we're going to disrupt the labels that somebody else put on us because they don't fit. We're not shrinking our truth into comfort. We're going to stop calling discernment rebellion, right? We're going to stop self-editing or over fixing ourselves just to fit in. You don't have a disorder. It's not something you need to bring down. So again, the question here is, what have I been tolerating that my spirit has already identified as misalignment, right? And we're going to disrupt that pattern, whatever your discernment is trying to get after. We're going to identify that pattern. Then we're going to disrupt the labels that people put on us because of that pattern. Make sense? Third, you're going to rebuild. The fun part, right? Ask yourself, what does alignment action look right now? What does it look like right now? This is where you stop collapsing and you start leading from this conviction. This is where you practice aligned speech. This is where you build new response patterns. This is where your discernment becomes direction. And the question becomes, what is one way I can honor my discernment this week without abandoning myself, without shrinking, without calling myself names, without accepting the labels that other people put on me? How can I do that? That's what you're going to ask yourself. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Strategy Table. Again, I'm your host, Artrice V.Scott. And if this resonated with you, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, listen to this podcast, share it with a friend, and I'll see you back for the next episode. Thank you.